Title: The elevator that never reached the top. Elevator doors slid shut with a soft metallic thud that echoed longer than it should have, as if the sound had nowhere to go and simply lingered in the air. Kevin exhaled slowly, loosening his shoulders after a long, exhausting night shift, and pressed the button for the 10th floor. The building was unusually quiet for that hour. No distant footsteps. No muffled voices behind walls, not even the hum of other elevators moving. It felt like the entire structure was asleep, or worse, empty. As the elevator began its smooth ascent, Kevin leaned back against the cold wall, closing his eyes for just a second, but something about the silence made him open them again. The numbers above the door began to change in steady rhythm too. 3, 4, completely normal at first, exactly what he expected. But then, as the elevator reached 10, something felt off. There was no slowing down, no slight jerk to signal arrival. It simply continued upward. 11. Kevin frowned, stepping forward and pressing the button again, more firmly this time. Still nothing. 12. A faint unease crept into his chest. This building only had 10 floors. He had lived here long enough to know that. Yet the elevator kept climbing as if it had somewhere else to go. The hum of the elevator deepened into a low vibration that Kevin could feel through the soles of his shoes, traveling up his legs like a warning he didn't understand. The overhead lights flickered briefly, casting uneven shadows across the mirrored walls, and that's when he noticed something strange. His reflection wasn't perfectly in sync. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable at first. But when he shifted his weight, the reflection followed just a fraction too late. He waved his hand slowly. His eyes locked onto the mirror and felt his breath catch when the reflection hesitated, then copied him, trying to shake it off. Kevin let out a nervous laugh, though it sounded hollow even to himself. "Just tired," he muttered under his breath, but the words didn't feel convincing. The numbers above the door changed again, but this time, instead of 13, something else appeared. It wasn't a number, not really. It looked like 1, but twisted, distorted, as if it didn't belong in any system Kevin understood. He stared at it, unable to process what he was seeing, as the elevator gave a sudden, sharp jolt that made him grab onto the railing for balance. The emergency light flickered on, bathing the elevator in a dim, reddish glow that made everything feel wrong and real. The air grew noticeably colder, and Kevin could see his breath faintly in front of him. He rushed forward and pressed the emergency button repeatedly. But there was no sound, no alarm, no connection, nothing. It was as if the button wasn't connected to anything at all. Panic began to build, slow and heavy, as he pulled out his phone and checked for signal. Nothing. Not even a single bar. When he looked back up, his reflection had stopped moving completely. Kevin froze, his chest tightening as he stared into the mirror. His reflection stood there, perfectly still, staring directly at him with an expression that didn't match his own. Kevin turned his head slightly, but the reflection didn't follow. It remained locked in place, eyes unblinking, breathing slowly but not in sync with him. A cold wave of fear washed over him as he took a step back, his heartbeat pounding loudly in his ears. "This isn't real," he whispered, his voice trembling. But a second later, the reflection's lips moved, repeating his words in a delayed, distorted version of his voice that sounded deeper, wrong somehow. Kevin stumbled backward, nearly losing his balance as the elevator continued its unnatural climb. The walls seemed to close in slightly, the space feeling tighter, heavier, as if the elevator itself was reacting to his fear. Then, without warning, everything stopped. The elevator jerked violently before going completely still, the sudden silence hitting harder than the noise ever did. Slowly, the doors began to slide open, revealing a floor that shouldn't exist. The hallway beyond stretched out unnaturally long. The perspective slightly distorted, as if the space itself didn't follow normal rules. Dim lights flickered overhead, casting shadows that moved even when nothing else did, and the air beyond the elevator looked thicker. Kevin hesitated, his instincts screaming at him not to step out, but something deeper pulled at him, urging him forward. His legs moved before his mind could stop them. As he stepped into the hallway, the elevator behind him let out a soft mechanical sound, and when he turned around, the doors were already closing. He rushed back, reaching out, but they shut completely, sealing him inside this impossible floor. The silence out there was overwhelming, pressing against his ears until it almost hurt. The doors lining the hallway were identical, each one slightly too tall, slightly too narrow, as if they weren't made for people. As Kevin walked slowly forward, he noticed something else. Each door had a number on it, but none of the numbers made sense. They twisted and shifted the longer he looked at them, refusing to stay the same. Then he heard it, a faint sound coming from behind one of the doors, breathing, slow, steady, and deliberate. Kevin's body went rigid as the sound grew clearer, louder, as if whatever was behind that door knew he was there. The handle began to turn slowly, carefully, without Kevin touching it. He stepped back, his heart racing uncontrollably. But before he could move further, every door in the hallway began to shake at once, as if something inside each one was trying to get out. The lights flickered violently, plunging the hallway into brief moments of darkness. And in those flashes, Kevin saw something moving at the far end, tall, unnatural shapes that bent in ways human bodies couldn't. The breathing sound multiplied, echoing all round him now, surrounding him, closing in. Somewhere behind him, the elevator dinged. He turned instantly, hope surging through him as he saw the doors open again. Without thinking, he ran faster than he ever had, throwing himself back inside and slamming his hand against the close button. The doors shut just as the shapes at the end of the hallway seemed to stretch toward him, their forms distorting as if reality itself was breaking. The elevator began to descend. This time, the numbers returned to normal: 10, 9, 8, each one bringing a small sense of relief. When the doors finally opened on his floor, everything looked exactly as it should. Normal hallway, normal lights, no sign that anything had happened. Kevin stumbled out, breathing heavily, not daring to look back as he rushed to his apartment. The next morning, he tried to convince himself it was all a dream. Stress, exhaustion, something his mind had created. But when he checked the elevator panel later that day, something made his stomach drop. There was no button for the 10th floor, and when he glanced at the mirror inside the elevator, just for a second his reflection didn't move. If this story gave you chills and you want more horror stories like this, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share the video. Because some places aren't meant to be reached and some doors, once opened, never fully close.